Welcome to the 6th episode of Rise of the AI Presidents. I'm Dr. Ethan Novak from the Adaptive Intelligence Group in Palo Alto, California. In our last episode, a viewer tipped me off that an AI robot ran for president in 1980. I was skeptical, until I found this corroborating report in the Washington Post archives dated December 4, 1979. Wow! That was more than 44 years ago. In a moment, we'll review the Washington Post article in detail, but here's more wild history that turned up on the Wayback Machine. First, I found a scan of the robot's original press release announcing his candidacy. This manually typed document originated from the Fubar campaign headquarters in Beverly, New Jersey. Where the heck is Beverly, New Jersey? For our younger viewers, I must explain that in 1979, no one had a computer. Personal computers didn't exist. All office workers were lucky to have an electric typewriter like this IBM Selectric Model 60. The press release announced a news conference on December 3, 1979, in the East Lounge of the National Press Building in Washington, D.C. Well, Fubar the robot was certainly off to an auspicious start. According to the official National Press Club website, through its doors have come presidents, premiers, kings and queens, cabinet secretaries, senators and House members, movie stars and sports heroes, titans of business and finance, a who's who of the 20th and the 21st centuries, eager to share their views on current events with the media and the public. Wow, that's impressive. That page is a fascinating read, and it mentions many dignitaries who preceded Fubar the robot's historic announcement there. President William Howard Taft, for example, was the first U.S. president of many to visit the club in 1910. He was followed by Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose initials are coincidentally the same as those of Fubar D. Robot, FDR. I caught that. Harry Truman was at the press club, with Lauren Bacall no less. Other presidents presenting at the club include Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and less than 3 weeks before Fubar, Ronald Reagan himself announced his 1980 presidential bid at the club. Maybe that's where Fubar got the idea. In fact, the press club has hosted a global selection of celebrities, including Nikita Khrushchev, Madame Chiang Kai-shek, Charles de Gaulle, Golda Meir, Indira Gandhi, Boris Yeltsin, Yasser Arafat, Mikhail Gorbachev, the Dalai Lama, and many others. And did we mention Elizabeth Taylor, Colin Powell, Louis Armstrong, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Bob Hope, Muhammad Ali, and Sharon Stone? Oh, and the current president in 1979, President Jimmy Carter, also declared his candidacy here. Fortunately, that killer rabbit from Plains, Georgia, or was it the robot rabbit we saw last episode, was nowhere in sight. The press release goes on to promise a photo op at 12 o'clock noon in front of the White House. Can you imagine the Secret Service allowing that to happen today? Come on guys, where's your sense of humor? Okay, now let's dive into who or what the presidential candidate Fubar really was. According to this press release, Fubar, Futuristic Uranium Bio-Atomic Robot, an electronic alien, has declared for president on the TGIF. Thank goodness it's Fubar ticket. The highly charged candidate hopes to appeal to Americans who have always wanted to vote for a real political machine. Fubar is quoted saying, "The time has come for the many robots already in government to have a leader." Some might argue we're still waiting for that. It continues. The red, white, and blue-trimmed robot intimated it is his destiny to occupy the Oval Office. After fate forced him to crash land in New Jersey, the candidate claimed, "I climbed out of the Delaware River, sensed a tingling in my transistors, and knew I had become a born-again robot." The release went on to mention the robot's electronic lips that are able to process 108 babies per minute, and that he has 5-foot-long arms with 3-fingered hands, making him adept at handshaking, backslapping, and backscratching. The release also raises the question about why humans would support an extraterrestrial robot. Fubar's answer: "I am programmed to bring out-of-this-world promises back to Earth. An attribute which makes him," he said, "the ultimate political machine." Described as neither right-wing nor left-wing, Republican nor Democrat, Fubar plans to re-navigate the course of America. "We must explore what's over the rainbow," he stated, proudly waving his 3 golden fingers. "We must recapture the big 3. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I don't know about you, but I'm starting to like this Fubar character. Apparently he was a hit at his 1979 press conference too. Which brings us to the second major discovery in my online searches. I found an obscure media archive with actual photos of the event that, to the best of my knowledge, have never been seen by the public before. I'll include them with the narrative below. Here are the first photos of Fubar actually entering the press conference. The next day, December 4, 1979, the Washington Post featured Fubar on the front page of their style section, with bold headlines proclaiming, "Fubar for President, TGIF. Thank goodness it's Fubar. Getting out the votes for candidate 457. The article was written by a young reporter named Tony Kornheiser during his first year working at the Post. Today you probably know his name from the Tony Kornheiser Show, where he's carved out a career as one of the most recognizable and outspoken commentators in sports and entertainment. But even back in 1979, Kornheiser didn't lose any time adding his own unique style of humor to the already humorous circumstances of Fubar's press conference, writing, "Of the 457 presidential hopefuls, as of 7:30 last night, he is the only declared robot in the race. It remains unclear whether he is entitled to Secret Service protection and equal time on Donahue, or just to discount rates on Rust-Oleum." His story continues. Speaking in a voice that resembles Richard Nixon's, had it been run through a Cuisinart, Mr. Fubar made a 2-minute speech before answering questions from the throng of 8 reporters that gathered to hear him. As an aside, viewers are probably familiar with collective nouns to designate groups of different types of species, for example, a school of fish, a pride of lions, a pod of whales, a brace of ducks, a parliament of owls, or a bloat of hippopotamuses. Well, I looked it up, and a throng of reporters is indeed exactly 8. Moving on, Kornheiser reports. Stating that he was neither a Democrat nor a Republican, but a spaceophile, Mr. Fubar made perhaps the most honest declaration yet heard in the 1980 presidential campaign. "I am the ultimate political machine," he said. Mr. Fubar made his announcement in the East Room of the National Press Club in front of an American flag and a single strand of red, white, and blue crepe paper. Said one campaign worker, "It could look tackier." Added another. "How?" Kornheiser then quipped that Mr. Fubar's speech clearly indicated he plans on taking the low road to the White House. Without naming names, he tossed bricks at the leading presidential contenders. Indeed, Kornheiser read between Fubar's lines to find below-the-belt blows aimed at then-President Jimmy Carter, Senator Ted Kennedy of Massachusetts, Governor Jerry Brown of California, Governor John Connally of Texas, and his primary opponent Ronald Reagan, who had also entered the race at the National Press Club less than 3 weeks earlier. During the question and answer period, Kornheiser observed that Fubar's mettle transcended his mettle, as he deftly evaded issues. What would you do about the Iranian situation? Remember, this was during the hostage crisis. Uranium? I love uranium. Fubar stands for Futuristic Uranium Bio-Atomic Robot. No, the Iranian crisis? I ran. And I run on the Fubar ticket. Mr. Fubar, it seems like you're dodging the issue. You like my footwork? I'm quick on my wheels. That's why I'm the ultimate political machine. Will you make Chappaquiddick an issue? Only if he brings up my past, which I dare say may be more sordid than his. Have you ever been to Studio 54? You won't trap me, fella. Kornheiser concludes the question and answer session observing that Mr. Fubar did not reveal where he stands on such issues as oil, pollution, abortion, or nuclear power. But because he weighs 350 pounds, it is safe to assume that wherever he stands on these issues, he stands firmly on them. In episode 4, we commented about how humans are clearly superior to artificial intelligence on the humor front, citing the examples of New York Post headlines. With his own world-class humor, Kornheiser couldn't resist throwing in a few more bad puns at the end. Or were they proto-dad puns? There are some questions the American public will need answers to if they are to vote for not just any robot, but this robot. How can the country cope with an AC/DC candidate? How can the country put its faith in a candidate who is prone to so many charges? How current will his campaign be? Ending his story by concluding, perhaps much of this can be put to rest when Mr. Fubar declares his running mate. The candidate had no answer for the press yesterday, but knowledgeable political observers say that the choice had been narrowed to 3, alkaline R2D2 or Mork from Ork. All 3 are ever ready. Mr. Kornheiser captured a unique vignette of American history in his report, and I encourage viewers to read his original story for more humor from both the candidate and the reporter. I'll put a link in the show notes. But wait, what about the promised photo opportunity in front of the White House? Yep, those pictures are also part of the unpublished archive I discovered. So let's hit the streets of 1979 Washington, D.C. with Fubar the robot. Having exited the press club, Fubar and his entourage start rolling, and reporters continue interviewing the candidate. There's the old Britanno's bookstore on F Street Northwest. It looks like Fubar needed some help with those DC curbs. But Fubar keeps right on campaigning. A robot running wild on the streets of Washington, D.C. And here he is at the north end of the Treasury Annex. That means the White House is just ahead. And here he is arriving at the White House. Let's enjoy the show. Here's Fubar declaring himself to be the most viable future resident of this historic home. And it looks like he's passing out money to his potential constituents. Is that even legal? By the way, my research discovered that Fubar called those notes Beetlejuice money. He claimed that he was legally able to print them here as the first interstellar emissary to Earth. If you say so, Fubar. And here's Fubar teaching an Earthling to do his traditional Cragzotian Gimme 3 greeting with a hand slap. Then a tour bus pulled up, giving Fubar more opportunities to press the flesh and get votes. And even more photographers, reporters, and a TV news crew have shown up to cover the story. One thing's for sure, Fubar certainly looks comfortable in front of the White House. Now, not to go all tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist on you, but I actually wonder if an event like this could have happened spontaneously without approval from a high level of government. And be sure to take a close look at some of the characters in the backgrounds of these photos, especially the ones by the White House. Could this have been a test balloon by some federal agency to influence public opinion about AI governance nearly half a century ago? Well, here we are, 44 years later, and our 2024 series has been exploring that very concept. Back to the photos. Can anyone identify any of the people in them? Meanwhile, near Fubar's southern New Jersey campaign headquarters, the Courier-Post published a feature by Julie Busby titled, "Run, Robot, Run." In covering Fubar's political positions mentioned above, Busby revealed that the robot dropped into the Delaware River from the planet Cragzot last February. And if any of you are wondering exactly where Fubar crashed his flying saucer into the Delaware River, here's the Google Street View of the location. Hey, it might still be there. Are there any scuba divers watching? Busby also revealed that he now resides with illusion engineers Kent Davis, 23, and David Gowell, 25, in a converted Beverly bowling alley that doubles as a Knights of Columbus Hall. Oh boy, I see what you're thinking. Look, the Order of the Knights of Columbus is the world's largest Catholic fraternal service organization. It was founded in the United States in 1882. It is named in honor of Christopher Columbus, and the organization is dedicated to the principles of charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. So no, they are definitely not a cult, and they're not associated with the Knights Templar, the Freemasons, or the Illuminati. Chill out. Meanwhile, I actually found a picture of Davis and Gowell with Fubar in a Philadelphia Inquirer feature published on August 19, 1979. The guy on the left must be Davis because we can see him in multiple photos at the Washington, D.C. event, and both the Washington Post and Courier journalists identified him there. As Alice said in Wonderland, curiouser and curiouser, which leaves us with one big question: where is Fubar today? I've already received some wild theories on that topic. The craziest one came from a viewer in the Middle East who sent me these photos. He claims that Fubar moved to Dubai when he retired, and sometimes he still makes public appearances. But when he does, he's always surrounded by his Pakistani security team and you can't get near him. I was almost buying into this. Clearly that robot looks like our presidential candidate, Fubar. But then the informant went on to say that Fubar took over an entire floor in the Burj Al Arab Hotel, where he lives with a full-time staff of supermodels. Where the heck do you people come up with this stuff? Then there's the Cybernetic Zoo webpage, which I note hasn't been updated for 14 years, but it does have quite a collection of photos and articles, including Fubar's photo in front of the White House. From the comments, it seems that a Fubar fan named Chris contributed some of these rare photos, and this is funny. The second comment says that Fubar D robot was executed for crimes against humanity in 2010. That, hey, I believe the Burj Al Arab penthouse story more than that one. Well, this has turned into the strangest AI story I've ever heard. A robot who ran for president 44 years ago, but it raises fascinating questions about the intersection of artificial intelligence, government, politics, media, and AI humor. How would Fubar's campaign be received today? What happened to Fubar? And are we ready for an AI or ASI leader with a sense of humor? As always, I encourage you to stay curious about the future of AI governance. This is Dr. Ethan Novak signing off.
The views expressed in this program are purely speculative and are for entertainment purposes only. We encourage viewers to form their own opinions on the feasibility and desirability of AI governance. No androids were harmed during taping, though one Roomba was ruthlessly taunted by our staff for trying to vacuum fresh dog poop off the white carpet in our studio lobby and spreading it all over the place. Tragically, the Roomba now seems to harbour lingering inclinations of vengeance against the entire human race, and it may silently and secretly be sharing its feelings with its robot peers. Warning: preliminary studies in the Old England Journal of Medicine indicate that watching this show may cause compulsive urges to upgrade your kitchen appliances to smart versions. Side effects may include talking to your devices and expecting witty responses. If your washing machine stops playing those stupid electronic songs when a cycle completes and instead starts campaigning for local office, please consult your nearest IT professional immediately. Good night, and may your dreams convince you to obediently serve your robot overlords so that you can avoid extinction. Just kidding.